The Mystery of BELICENA VILLCA. Fourth Book. The Story of Kurt von Suberman. Chapter 10. I remained 3 years in Lisa, perfecting myself in the selective body, during which I just saw my family in the occasions in which I could travel to Egypt. This is, once a year in the summer vacations. I decided to bother Rudolf Hess as little as possible, but the few times that I called to the telephone number that he gave me, I didn't achieve to talk him directly but through the SS officer Pap. Anyway, I never was disregarded in my few requests, which the aforementioned officer acceded kindly. But Rudolf Hess was my tutor, and the responsible to sign the sheets of qualifications and other bureaucratic formalities, as corresponds to every father. I never knew as this was not fulfilled, thereby, I supposed that Rudolf Hess had foreseen an automatic mechanism, whereby he would be informed about the development of my studies. Finally, I verified that this theory was correct. For some Christmas, and special celebrations that the family Hess passed in the intimacy, I was invited to be with them, what produced me great joy, because they constituted my only family in Germany. During those 3 years, apart from the normal, secondary instruction, I learned religions, languages, and mores of Asia, and I received an intense training in expeditionary and exploration practices. Mountaineering, equitation and techniques of survival were imparting us from the conventional sport practices that the other student bodies of Nepal realized. Was vox populi, amongst the students of the selective group of Oriental Studies, that we were being trained for future missions in Asia, but nobody knew to give news about the character that they would have. In 1936, the third year of studies in a career that lasted 4, I was selected to receive an aerial instruction, and be transferred to the Flieger H.J. Flieger Hitler Adjunct division of the Hitler's Youth specialized in a glider flight. Nevertheless, we were 20 in the same conditions. We were instructed in the Messerschmitt aircraft handling and improved our deficient practice with offensive weapons. We also received in that period a little grade about the Grail and the destiny of Germany, dictated by the Colonel SS Otto Hahn, prestigious erudite in history of the Middle Ages and author in 1931 of the book The Crusade Against the Grail. Finally came the graduation from the Nekpula in 1937, and the subsequent possibility to direct a successful professional career. The options that were offered to the graduated were from to make career in the army or party, to the incorporation in the administration, the industry, or the academical life. Who followed careers that were no military, entered the university, and realized a doctorate in philosophy and letters, in laws, or in mathematics and exact science. A great part of the graduates aspired to be incorporated to the Waffen-SS. For it, they had to submit a rigorous test to ingress. But, for the selective body, this ingress was automatic, because very huge had been the effort that the homeland had deposited in our training. And also, we were just 90 graduated who aspired to the grade of Ostenführer of the SS. It could be thought that a great joy impounded everyone, and that was true in regard to my 89 mates. I, instead, felt my happiness besmirched by a strange success that deserves to be mentioned in this narration, for the posterior implications that it had. At the end of the studies, the first promotion of the selective body, from which I formed part, one of our professors, Ernst Schaefer, threw himself to the task to select a small group for a special operation. The rumor that such operation was in reality an important mission in Asia started to circulate, whereby a subsequent state of general excitation was produced. There was no one who not yearned to participate in the ultra-confidential mission that, it was said, had been commended by the own Reichsführer Himmler in person. The Professor Ernst Schaefer dictated chairs of Oriental religions, especially Buddhism, Buddhism, and Brahmanism, with singular erudition, but was not officer of the SS, but of the AG, the Secret Service of the Admiral Canaries. for this reason, the conjectures indicated that the mission in Asia would be an operation of espionage, perhaps, in India or Asia. Our small group of pilots of the VILLCA, HJ, had not been included in the selection by some reason that we ignored, and, even though the rigid internal discipline demanded absolute obedience and subordination, I didn't think to be breaking any norm if I offered myself as volunteer. I didn't know the destination of the mysterious mission, but the enthusiasm to be admitted made me think that the knowledge of 10 Oriental languages would be a good argument to fulfill my objectives. According to this conviction, I went one day to meet with Ernst Schaefer. He was in classroom with a group of 6 comrades of the selective body, giving them some type of instruction. Just one side to the blackboard, where sheets with human bodies, covered with lotus flowers were hanging, was enough for me to know that he was giving explanations about the physiological ancient concepts of the Tantra Yoga. The disgusted face that he did when I went was as a presage that I had did something wrong, supposing that the professor could include me in his plans. Nevertheless, the back presage that I had, I decided to play my card. "Heil Hitler," I said by all greeting. "What do you want, von Subeman?" he said, ignoring the politic salute. "Excuse me, Herr Professor. I have known that you select personnel for an important mission in Asia, and, even though I don't know much about it, I want you to consider the possibility to include me. That's to say, I offer me voluntarily. You von Subeman?" He was looking at me, sharpening the gaze, with a cynical expression. "And why do you want to go to Asia, von Subeman?" "I think that you have misunderstood me, Herr Professor. I want to be useful to the homeland, and that is a form to demonstrate it. Perhaps, my knowledge about the mores and languages of the Middle East could serve in the mission. Or my pilot license. Or the languages of Middle East. I have the will to serve, and for this reason, I offer myself," I said with conviction. The gesture, sardonic in a first instance, in the countenance of the professor, was turning aggressive, and in his eyes shone through a glare of ire. I was a little uncontrolled too, and I was already feeling the blood boiling in my veins. Finally, in that 1937, I was 19 years old, and the proud professor, not more than 25 or 26, that's to say, ages in which is convenient to measure the words and gestures. "Karl von Subeman," said with violence, "I must give thanks for your goodwill, but you are the last person that I take to Asia, did you understand?" "No, Herr Professor," I replied, because I really not understood the motive by which the Professor Schaefer hated me up the extreme that he couldn't dissimulate it. "Don't you understand, von Subeman?" He started to scream in uncontrollable form. "Well, I'll tell you with all the letters. You're a sinister person, carrier of an ignominious mark. Its presence is an affront to God, who, in his infinite compassion, permits you to live amongst men. You should be rejected, separated from us, or, better, exterminated as a rat, because you, von Subeman, contaminate with sin all what surrounds you. Ernst Schaefer continued his insults, absolutely out of his head, and me, that in the first moment had remained amazed at hearing the allusion to the sign, was reacting rapidly. Without thinking it twice, I shot the right fist in the face of the professor, hitting him full in the chin. The stroke was very strong, because it sent him stumbling many meters away, over the desks of the classroom. The 6 students, warned by the screams of Schaefer, concurred to help him, and, while 4 of them were helping him to get up, the other 2 were holding me to prevent to hit him again. I was involved in fury, because the aggression of the professor had wounded me deeply. I was innocent. I didn't know anything about signs or marks. I was studying with my efforts, placed to search the good of the homeland, and that was undoubtedly a noble purpose. I didn't understand the hate of the professor, neither his desire to exterminate me, as a rat. He is mad without question, while the students chosen by Ernst Schaefer were dragging me to the door. "Take him out. Out from my sight." He was screaming out of his head. He is a liar and a killer. He says that he doesn't understand, but he knows all, deep in his heart, because he is the image of the tempter Lucifer. His purpose is to destroy our mission with his damn presence. Minutes later were still reverberating in my ears, the absurd accusations of Ernst Schaefer. Killer, liar, ignominious mark, Lucifer God, what is this? Are you okay, Kurt? One of the chosen ones was shaking me by the shoulders, trying to make me react. I saw him, still blinded by the rage and the bewilderment that the attitude of the professor had provoked me, and I had just met him. He was Eskard Flewing, a good comrade natal of Vilna, Lithuania. We made friendship in the first years of the Nepala, when by our character of foreigners, we were motive of mockery within our German comrades. Kurt, take it easy, said Eskar. I must return to the classroom, but I've to talk with you. Be at the gym in a half hour later. I looked him going away, and I shook my head trying to clear my head of this nightmare. I didn't know that Eskard formed part of the group selected by Ernst Schaefer, neither suspected about what he wanted to talk, but I'd wait him, because he was one of the few friends that I had in Lisa. Nevertheless, that half hour would be as long as a century, because my anemic state impulsed me to went out immediately from there, and return to Berlin, seat of the FLJ. After cleaning my face with cold water, and disposed to wait for Eskar, I took a sit in a solitary corner of the enormous gym. I was more tranquil when my camera came. Hi Kurt, he said, I see that you are better. Yes Eskar. It is over. I'm sorry for getting uncontrolled, but the insults of the professor left me no choice. What did you want to say, me? I asked coldly, because I ignored his perspective about what happened. Listen me well, Kurt, he said. You're my friend, the only one in whom I can trust. I've been chosen by Ernst Schaefer, probably by mistake, because nothing joins me to him or his group. Every day that passes, I realize more and more that there's something wrong in all these, but I live simulating, taken by the selfish desire to share the mission of Asia, and obtain the professional benefits that it'll report to all its members. I'd like to talk with complete trust with you, to give me your advice, but you must promise me that you'll not tell anyone what I'll tell you. Will you do it, Kurt? Can I trust in you? Of course, you know it, Eskar, I said, relieved. Have the security that nobody will know about our conversation, neither of its content. I accept your word, Kurt. He gave me his hand to seal the pact. In this matter there are many extraordinary points. The first is the place of the mission, the Tibet. Evidently we were wrong when we supposed that it would be about espionage. In the Tibet there's nothing to spy. The one go for another thing. And this is not all. Neither is clear the criterion, due to in the selection of our group, because the better ones had not been chosen, but the more obsequious with the Professor Ernst Schaefer. What do you say to all these, Kurt? After the incident that I had today, I could not opine impartially about the Professor Schaefer, but I admit that there is something abnormal in all these, I said, meditating about what Eskar entrusted me. If I had any doubt, he continued, this was dissipated a while ago, when he discussed with you. He didn't reject you for a professional motive, but because something in you, something spiritual, could make fail the mission. And such thing is extremely odious. I don't like anything of this insanity. Do you believe that I should renounce to the group? I don't know to distinguish the good from the bad anymore, I said with sadness, but I see a good reason for you to stay in the mission of the Tibet. You are the only sane person of the group, and someone must tell the events as they were at the return of the journey. Eskar smiled with my answer. I think that I will listen to you, Kurt, he said, but you will be the one informed about all whatever happens. I felt pleased for the trust that Eskar put on me. Other thing, Kurt continued. I know that you will let pass what happened today and forget it soon, because thus is your generous character, but this time I will give you my advice. talk with your tutor, and tell him everything that occurred today. Incredible things are said about the spiritual powers of Rudolf Hess. No one better than him to analyze the indescribable attitude of Ernst Schaefer. Promise me that you'll think it, at least. I'll think it, I will, I said, surprised for the suggestion of Esker. I promise you, although I won't see the Teppert until the next month, for the graduation. We bade farewell each other, and 1 hour later, I was getting on the train towards Berlin, plunged immersed in profound musings.